Dear students, welcome back. Today we will move on to a new topic. Topic 3, Beijing Olympic Games. As usual, we will start the topic with several lead-in questions to arouse your learning interest. Do you know what a stereotype is? How does it do harm to cross-cultural communication? Have you ever seen some misrepresentation of China's sports in Western media reports? Have you watched the Beijing 2022 Winter Games? Can you tell any features of the games? In order to address these questions, we will together study the topic about the Beijing 2022 Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games. After learning this topic, you will be able to realize the following goals. Identify some common stereotypes in cross-cultural communication. Find out some misrepresentation of photos or videos in some Western media reports on China's sports. Explain the typical features of the Beijing 2022 Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games. Tell real stories about China's sports. Similar to previous topics, our learning for this topic will be composed of 3 main parts: a cross-cultural view, Western media perspectives, and real China. In the cross-cultural view part, we will examine a dialogue happened in a gym between a Chinese college student and his American friend. The dialogue didn't go through smoothly. We will find out what goes wrong and learn relevant knowledge about stereotype. In the Western media perspectives part, we will come across some misrepresentation of photos or videos concerning the Beijing 2022 Winter Games on Twitter. The misrepresentation is not only due to their long-term bias against China, but also their lack of media literacy. At the same time, we will analyze a related report from CNN. This report has taken advantage of the netizens' misunderstanding to defame China. By studying the concept of out-of-context photos and videos, as well as possible ways to deal with them, we will try to improve our media literacy and correct some Westerners' misunderstanding. In the Real China part, we will first watch an episode of China Daily's video chat show. This episode is about the adapted theme song for the Beijing 2022 Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games. By analyzing the video, we will study how Chinese mainstream media tells the story of China's sports. What's more, we will take this opportunity to get to know some typical features of Beijing 2022 Winter Games and be familiar with true stories of the games. Now you have got a general idea about what we are trying to achieve and what are we going to learn in this topic. We will start our learning from part 1, a cross-cultural view, next time. See you soon. Hi everybody, I'm glad to meet you again. We are now at the gym of a college in America. Liu Yu, a Chinese student who came to the US just a month ago, is running on a treadmill. Look, his American classmate Andy comes to him. Let's find out what they're talking about. While you are watching the scenario, please think about the following question. Why does Andy mention the ping pong team?
Hi Louie. I didn't expect to meet you here. You don't look athletic. Do you come here often?
Haha. I come here 3 times a week. Actually, I was in my high school tennis team back home.
Tennis team? Instead of a ping pong team?
Yes, almost all sorts of ball games are popular in China. and the Beijing Winter Olympics has also made ice and snow activities popular across the country.
That's cool. I like sports too. Hey, can you teach me Chinese Kung Fu someday?
I'm sorry. I've never practiced Kung Fu before.
You can't practice Chinese Kung Fu? What a pity. What other sports do you like?
Oh, I've been practicing gymnastics since 7.
Gymnastics? Luckily, you are not among those Chinese gymnastic boys who receive harsh and cruel training.
What?
Dear students, you may find that the dialogue between Liu Yu and Andy didn't go through smoothly. What's going wrong exactly? Let's start our discussion by answering the very question I have proposed earlier. Why does Andy mention the ping pong team? Think it for a while. Very good. I think you've got the correct answer. Andy mentions the ping pong team because he thinks every Chinese is into playing ping pong to the exclusion of other ball games. This is an overgeneralized view about Chinese people and not true. The view could be seen as a sign of stereotype. What's more, if you have watched the scenario attentively, you may find that apart from the statement about ping pong, there are some other sentences that imply Andy's stereotypes about China. For example, when Andy says, "You don't look athletic. Do you come here often?" He might think Chinese people do not like doing sports. Andy asks Liu Yu to teach him Chinese Kung Fu, probably because he assumes that every Chinese can practice Kung Fu. Liu Yu is astonished at the end of the scenario. Because Andy knows little about Chinese people's sportsmanship, and falsely assumes that Chinese athletes normally receive machine-like training. Now you have figured out the problems that lie in this cross-cultural scenario. Andy holds a lot of stereotypes about China and Chinese people. This results in misunderstanding and awkwardness. Next class, we will learn more about stereotype in cross-cultural communication. See you next time. Hi everybody, nice to see you again. Last session, we have seen a field cross-cultural communication scenario happen in a gym. And we found that the major problem lies in Andy's stereotype about China's sports. In fact, Andy's impression of China in the scenario is not an exceptional case. Despite the fact that China is gaining more exposure and exerting a greater influence in the international arena, many Westerners still hold fixed, unfair, and false views about China. For example, some Westerners might assume that Chinese are not into or good at doing sports. Such views are called stereotypes. In today's class, we will dig deep into this key concept. To start with, what is a stereotype? A stereotype is a fixed idea or image that many people have of a particular type of person or thing, but which is often not true in reality. Then, how is a stereotype formed? A stereotype is formed mainly through the following 3 ways. First, categorization. Some stereotypical views are basically overgeneralized views, because some people tend to put every single person or thing into a fixed unknown category to simplify information. However, in cross-cultural communication, categorization exaggerates not only the differences between different cultures, but also the similarities within a culture. So, one may think that The Germans and the French are quite different. The Germans are meticulous, but the French are romantic. In fact, not all the Germans are meticulous, and some French people are not romantic. Second assumption. It is human nature to prejudge other people and things to decide whether they are familiar and safe. This is the process of making assumptions. Based on their own cultural backgrounds and values, some people may tend to filter out the information that is not consistent with their prejudgments, and then stereotypes come up. In fact, many stereotypes created by assumptions are based on half-truths or simply groundless. Third, ethnocentrism. We have studied ethnocentrism in Topic 1. Stereotype is related to ethnocentrism because unfriendly stereotypes about people from other cultures are often caused by ethnocentrism. Specifically, ethnocentrism is the tendency to think of one's own culture as being at the center of the world. It makes some people believe that their own culture is more natural, correct, or superior than other cultures. They'll consider behaviors of people from other cultures strange, wrong, or inferior. For example, when people who eat food with forks meet those who eat with hands, the former might tend to think that eating with hands is barbaric and disgusting, rather than looking at it objectively. This is an unfriendly stereotype and has something to do with one's deep-rooted ethnocentrism. Stereotypes lead to many problems in cross-cultural communication. Let's examine the potential harm of stereotyping. First, stereotyping a culture makes people ignore cultural differences. What we think about other people might not be true when we have stereotypes in mind. Second, stereotyping is usually based on such factors as ignorance, exaggeration, distortion, and racism, and it could result in prejudicial attitudes. Third, stereotyping affects both the behaviors of those who have stereotypical views and those who are stereotyped. In cross-cultural communication, you may find that some people from other cultures have fixed, unfair, and false views on other cultures. For example, some Westerners may think that ball games are not very popular in China except table tennis. Obviously, this view is a stereotype. In today's class, we have learned the definition of stereotype, causes of stereotype, and its potential harm in detail. A stereotype refers to a fixed idea or image that many people have of a particular type of person or thing, but which is often not true in reality. A stereotype could be formed through categorization, assumption, or ethnocentrism. Stereotyping could bring harm to cross-cultural communication in terms of cognition, attitudes, and behaviors. Specifically, it makes people ignore cultural differences, causes prejudicial attitudes, and affects both the behaviors of those who have stereotypical views and those who are stereotyped. Therefore, we should try to keep away from stereotypes in cross-cultural communication. Before ending today's class, I will provide you with some tips to conduct cross-cultural communication, especially in avoiding stereotypes. First, avoid overgeneralized ideas. When you tend to generalize certain phenomena, think about the following two questions. To what degree is this generalization true? Some generalizations are almost always true, while others are sometimes true. And under what circumstances is this generalization true? A generalization that is generally true in one situation may not be true in another. Second, when you first come into contact with a foreign culture, try to describe it instead of evaluating it. Third, when you have to make an evaluation, remember to get the whole picture of a culture before you can actually evaluate it. Fourth, make sure you are not judging other cultures negatively simply because they are different from yours. Fifth, try not to judge people from different cultural backgrounds too quickly. Okay, that's all for today's class. See you next time. Hello everyone! Last class, we have learned the stereotype in cross-cultural communication. This class, we will start a new section, Western Media Perspectives. As we all know, China has successfully held the Beijing 2022 Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games, and China has drawn wide attention from the international community. However, when seeing photos and videos of the big air show Gang, the competition venue for snowboarding and freestyle skiing, some Westerners refer to it as a venue next to a nuclear plant, questioning the greenness of the Winter Games. Here are some related comments from Twitter and an excerpt from a CNN report. Let's take a closer look at them. What are the problems with these Twitter comments and the CNN report? These Twitter comments interpreted photos and videos of big air show Gang out of context and created groundless rumors. And the CNN report made use of the netizens' misunderstanding to raise doubts and question the greenness of the games. Apparently, hyping the big air show Gang as a venue next to a nuclear plant is totally absurd and ridiculous, because big air show Gang has actually been repurposed from the site of a former steel plant of Shougang Group. And those big towers are simply cooling towers of the former steel mill. Thanks to its uniqueness and greenness, the big air show Gang is well recognized by many athletes, journalists, and the International Olympic Committee. What's more, the so-called environmental hazards mentioned by CNN are not true. As for artificial snow, it has already been widely used in previous Winter Olympics. Beijing 2022 Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games used renewable energy to make snow, and the water snow gun used can be recycled for snowmaking, irrigation, tourism, and landscaping. The CNN report on the Yanqing venue is also fake because the boundaries of the Songshan National Nature Reserve were adjusted for better protection of the ecological environment. After the adjustment, the Yanqing venue does not fall in the reserve. Since you have already known these are false accusations, have you ever wondered what are their purposes of relating the big air show Gang to a nuclear plant? Here are two possible reasons. First, they want to find the so-called evidence to support their bias against China. Second, they utilize misinformation to intentionally cause trouble for the Beijing Olympics. The above misrepresentation certainly had something to do with some Westerners' long-term bias and stereotype about China, but also, to some extent, reflects their lack of media literacy. Next class, we will learn relevant media knowledge to further analyze these cases. Dear class, in the above case, some netizens interpreted photos or videos out of context, creating groundless rumors and distorting basic facts. The CNN report made use of netizens' misunderstanding to raise doubts and question the greenness of the games. The relevant media concept in such cases is out-of-context photos or videos. That is the learning focus for today's class. First of all, what are out-of-context photos or videos? Out-of-context photos or videos basically refer to the photos or videos that lack or misstate the context in which events occurred. Interpreting photos or videos out of context is an important cause of visual misinformation and can be particularly dangerous. There are two common tricks of out-of-context photos or videos: isolation and misrepresentation. Isolation means presenting a visual element in an isolated way. It generally fails to provide necessary background information for viewers to accurately understand what the visual element is actually depicting or the full story. For instance, rumors of Big Air Shogun to a large extent came from isolated pictures. Isolation can also happen when clips are taken from a complete video. This sometimes creates a false narrative that does not reflect the whole picture. Misrepresentation means presenting unaltered content in an inaccurate way that misleads the viewers. Typically, it recirculates old, legitimate photos or videos out of their original context and uses them as evidences for other things. In other words, misrepresentation may involve the change of the shooting date or location or both, while the visual content remains the same. This change of the context will also mislead the viewers. Back to the cases. How did the netizens and the media distort facts and raise doubts about the Big Air Shogun? In terms of content, the netizens simply relied on out-of-context photos or videos and drew wide conclusions based on the strong contrast between the big towers and the ski slope. They didn't bother to learn any necessary background information. The Big Air Shogun is in fact the first competition venue repurposed from an industrial heritage site in the history of Winter Olympic Games. It is also the world's first permanent preserved big air venue for long-term usage. After the Games, it could still be used for tourism, art exhibitions, and sports events. The Big Air Shogun has nothing to do with the so-called nuclear plant. Instead, it sets a good example of urban planning, representing sustainability, frugality, and greenness. Clearly, lacking media literacy and blindly believing in out-of-context photos or videos bring about such absurd and groundless rumors. Then, the media report made use of netizens' misunderstanding to pursue their own agenda, that is, to question the greenness of the Beijing 2022 Olympics, like raising doubts about the artificial snow and the location of the Yanqing venue. Such claims are totally groundless and ridiculous. In terms of language, 3 language patterns are used in the cases that we should be aware of. First, exaggeration. In the first case, the netizen used "so mad" and capitalized the word "way" to exaggerate his surprise. Such expressions help him emphasize his misunderstanding of the Big Air Shogun. Second, irony. By saying, "Gotta love the nuclear power plant backdrop," the CBS reporter showed his strong sarcasm to the Big Air Shogun. Irony is used to imply what the speaker really means, often through a joke and with a certain tone of voice. The rhetorical device often attracts and impresses readers because it highlights the speaker's main argument with something opposite. Third, sensational headlines. CNN seized upon the netizens' misunderstanding and used sensational headline, "Is that a nuclear plant?" to catch the eyes of the readers. In particular, under the sensational headline, CNN used such expressions as "the big air is not the first element," and a recent CNN report also showed, to stress its agenda of questioning the greatness of the games. In a word, exaggeration, irony, and sensational headlines are commonly used language patterns to gain attention and raise doubts. It is known that out-of-context photos or videos may help spread visual misinformation. They are powerful tools to deceive people and thus can be particularly dangerous. Do you know why are out-of-context photos or videos easily deceptive? There are several reasons. First, visual elements can easily grab people's attention. A study found that social media posts that include images would receive more than 3 times the interactions received by pure text. Second, people often tend to believe that photos or videos can prove that something really happened. Psychological research has shown that people are more likely to believe a statement when it is presented alongside an image or in a video. Just as the old thing goes, seeing is believing. Some Western media then take advantage of this mindset and present isolated or misrepresented visuals to deceive audiences. Third, photos or videos can help people easily recall related information and emotion from memory and bring out vivid imaginations. This may make people believe that the information conveyed by pictures or videos is true. Fourth, if the visual elements are consistent with certain stereotypes commonly held by a group of people, they are easier to be accepted by those people as true. You have now got a general idea of why out-of-context photos or videos can easily be deceptive. Then, how to deal with them? Here are some useful suggestions. First, when browsing information online, don't simply rely on the principle of seeing is believing. Always be critical. Second, conduct search when necessary and check where the photos or videos first appeared. This method can help you find the background information and make a sound judgment. Third, since context plays an important role in image and video interpretation, it's necessary for us to take context into consideration when interpreting visual elements. Fourth, we should also provide necessary context when presenting and transmitting pictures or videos online. In today's lecture, we have discussed the case of Big Air Showgun. In this case, when seeing photos of Big Air Showgun, some foreign netizens created groundless rumors that the venue is next to a nuclear plant. The main problem is that they interpreted the photos out of context. Although such absurd rumors were later clarified, they still had negative effects. Some Western media even made use of the netizens' misunderstanding to intentionally cause trouble for the Beijing Olympics. Based on the case study, we've learned relevant knowledge about out-of-context photos or videos to improve our media literacy. Specifically, we've addressed the following key questions. What are out-of-context photos or videos? What are commonly seen tricks of out-of-context photos or videos? Why are out-of-context photos or videos easily deceptive? And how to deal with them? Before ending today's class, let's quickly review the major knowledge points we have covered. Out-of-context photos or videos basically refer to the photos or videos that lack or misstate the context in which events occurred. Interpreting photos or videos out of context is an important cause of visual misinformation and can be particularly dangerous. Two commonly seen tricks of out-of-context photos or videos are isolation and misrepresentation. Isolation means presenting a visual element in an isolated way, without providing necessary background information for viewers to accurately understand what the visual element is actually depicting or the full story. Isolation can also happen when clips are taken from a complete video, which sometimes creates a false narrative that does not reflect the whole picture. Misrepresentation means presenting unaltered content in an inaccurate way that misleads the viewers. Typically, it recirculates old, legitimate photos or videos out of their original context and uses them as evidences for other things. It's necessary for us to take context into consideration when interpreting visual elements, and to provide necessary context when presenting and transmitting pictures or videos online. After today's lecture, I hope you can improve your media literacy. Although visual elements are powerful tools to promote ideas and guide public opinions, when coming across pictures or videos in the media, we should be more critical and always be aware of the importance of context when interpreting, presenting, and transmitting visual elements. That's all for today's class. Next class, we will move on to the last part of this topic, Real China. In that part, we will go beyond distorted Western media reports and get to know the true stories of the Beijing 2022 Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games. See you soon! Hello everyone, welcome back. Last class, we have seen some groundless rumors concerning Beijing Olympics among foreign netizens, and we've also analyzed a misleading Western media report about China's sports. How can we refute some Westerners' bias and tell the true stories of China's sports? And how did the Chinese mainstream media report the Beijing 2022 Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games? Let's now watch an episode of China Daily's video chat show and see what inspirations we can draw. The interviewee of this episode is a British musician in China.
Given the opportunity to write a song for the Olympics was fantastic because, you know, how many chances do you get to write a song for the Olympics, right? So when I was approached, of course I wanted to do it. And the lyrics that were kind of there already, the Chinese lyrics, were pretty self-explanatory, really. So I just wanted to kind of stay as true to the original lyrics as possible because obviously it was part of the official theme song for the Olympics as well. So I didn't want to change anything too much. So this time it was pretty much mostly a translation, and then plus just restructuring the words in a way that kind of made more sense natively in English.
You got that tiger's eye, trying with all your might. No, you're not scared to lose, and you're not giving up the fight.
And also, Tiger's Eye, this name, I had no idea at the time I wrote it that it was the year of the tiger in the Chinese calendar. So that was like a happy coincidence, because after I named the song Tiger's Eye and everything, it was like, oh, it's the year of the tiger now. as well. So I was like, wow, it's like fate. And the lyrics, the way I wrote the lyrics was to kind of get into the mindset of an athlete. So what kind of song would I want to listen to if I were an athlete in the Olympics? So I imagined myself standing on the top of the ski jump, like there with my heart kind of pounding and thinking, oh gosh, this is it. Like 4 years of training, well, a lifetime of training, but you know, the last 4 years particularly, kind of standing there, everything comes down to this one moment, and that pressure that they must be under is just unimaginable. So I thought, how about I write a song about that? But also, and this amazing moment that this creates, you know, for a period of a month or so, where a whole group of people from all over the world are together and they're, you know, enjoying one thing. They're in this moment together. I think that's a really wonderful thing. So I wanted to incorporate sort of all of these different elements into the song and create a song that sort of was really fitting for this. It has a huge significance because, you know, the Olympic Games is a rare opportunity for the whole world to get together. But it's something that's kept going throughout the decades, regardless of what's been happening on a geopolitical level. And I think that's something that we shouldn't take for granted, because it's not easy to keep, especially nowadays. And to have the Olympics at this time, I think, is more of a symbol than ever, really. It's more of a symbol of hope and of this idea of peace between nations, between people, and togetherness and inclusiveness as well. And I mean, we're going to have to be together and separate our differences and focus on our similarities. I like combining different cultural elements together to make something new. So everything that I do in life is just inspired by the adventure that I'm having of kind of exploring these cultures and connecting things together. So like, for instance, in my music, I take Western pop sounds and combine them with traditional Chinese instruments, traditional Chinese poems, things like that, and create some kind of fusion of East and West, of modern and traditional, I guess just everything, just trying to connect people together as well, you know, because I think through my work, I hope that my followers can be from all over the world, not only China. In the same way that I've sort of come on this adventure myself and sort of had a look to discover this cultural group that are doing something amazing, which is China. I hope more people can come on the journey with me and explore China as well, and also maybe inspire people to do the same thing in other countries.
The episode we have just seen comes from China Daily's video chat show Lao Why Not, meaning don't call me a foreigner. The show often invites foreigners who know China well to join the discussion of hot topics relating to China. As for this episode, it mainly focuses on the adapted theme song for the Beijing 2022 Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games. The song, named Together for a Shared Future, explains China's sports spirit very well to foreign audiences. In terms of content, the song transmits such key values as cooperation, togetherness, peace, love, inclusiveness, openness, sharing, and seeking common ground while reserving differences. These stressed common wishes are shared by most people around the world. It is thus conducive to rousing people's emotional resonance. In terms of format, music is important too to promote international communication. Compared with texts, music is easier to be accepted by more audiences in the world. The catchy tune of the same song further promotes the popularity of Beijing Olympics. We could learn from this successful international communication case in telling stories about China's sports. Moreover, in order to better correct some Westerners' misunderstanding and stereotypes, we need to be familiar with the true stories of the Beijing 2022 Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games. That's a task for our next class. See you soon! Hello everyone, it's nice to see you again. To better tell stories about the Beijing 2022 Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games, we need to figure out the typical features of the Games and possible reasons for China to devote itself to hosting the Games. Successfully holding the Beijing 2022 Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games marks a new chapter in China's sports history. Do you know what are the typical features of the Games? The big sports event embraced the ideas of being green and high-tech. Besides, it helped promote our Chinese culture and the national fitness campaign. First, greenness. China has shown its capability and determination to deal with the global challenge of climate change by embracing the idea of Green Olympics. For example, all the venues put a strong emphasis on energy efficiency and environmental conservation. For the first time in Olympics history, all the venues were powered with renewable energy. Another typical example of China's pursuit of sustainable and green development is Big Air Shogun. Based on the previous study, we have known that Big Air Shogun is constructed at the site of a former steel mill. It represents sustainability, frugality, and greenness. Second, high technology. The wide application of cutting-edge technology is another key feature of the Games. For instance, with the help of the 5G technology, the Games were broadcast live in ultra-high definition. The high-speed rail linking Beijing and Zhangjiakou shuttled athletes, journalists, and other passengers between the two cities within a short period of time. And the smart restaurant at the main media center of the Olympics used robots to cook and deliver food. Third, Chinese cultural elements. The Games demonstrated Chinese cultural elements in many aspects, attracting worldwide attention. For example, the mascot Bing Dun Dun won great popularity. It represents China's national treasure, the giant panda. And the design of Xue Rongrong was inspired by the Chinese lantern, which symbolizes unity and joy. Another example is the design of the Big Air Shogun. It was inspired by the ribbons of the flying apsaras in Dunhuang frescoes. Fourth, the national fitness campaign. Hosting the Games has encouraged the whole nation to actively participate in winter sports. This further promoted the development of mass sports. Currently, there are almost 2,000 ice and snow facilities across China, and over 346 million Chinese people have engaged in winter sports since 2015, when China won the bid to host the Games. As we all know, Beijing held its first Olympics in 2008 and second in 2022, becoming the world's first new Olympic city. Have you ever wondered why China bid twice for the Olympic Games? Or why China didn't make great efforts to host the Games? Possible reasons or merits may include the following. First, to make China a proud sporting nation. Hosting the Olympics will improve the country's overall competitiveness in international sports competitions. The athletes of host countries will get more opportunities to play in different sports, compete with the best athletes from all over the world, and improve their own performances. For example, the Chinese sports delegation participated for the first time in all the events and reaped 15 medals at the 2022 Winter Olympics. Among these 15 medals, 9 are gold medals. This is our best ever achievement at Winter Olympics. Second, to promote Chinese culture to the world. The host country can catch the whole world's attention. It is thus a good way to promote our national culture. The Beijing 2022 Winter Olympics attracted billions of audiences around the world, making it the most watched Winter Games ever. It amazed the world by combining Chinese culture with ice and snow elements in a brilliant way. For example, the traditional Chinese 24 solar terms were creatively used for the countdown to the opening ceremony of the Games. This exhibits Chinese people's special observation of time and changes in nature. Other Chinese cultural elements, such as the Chinese knot at the opening ceremony and the veil twigs at the closing ceremony, show the traditional Chinese cultural values of solidarity and hospitality. Third, to improve China's national image and international relations. During the Beijing 2022 Winter Olympics, China successfully showed a trustworthy, lovable, and admirable national image. It made the motto, "Together for a Shared Future," a reality. Against the backdrop of the COVID-19 pandemic worldwide and other daunting challenges faced by mankind, China treated all guests and athletes with warm services while ensuring their safety. This reflects China's great determination and dedication to promoting world peace, unity, and progress. Fourth, to further modernize the nation and seek economic boom. Host countries of the Olympics could get far-reaching positive impacts on economic growth. For example, in 2022 Winter Olympics, China further promoted the coordinated development of the Beijing, Tianjin, Hebei region through infrastructure building. To get well prepared for the Games, advanced technologies have been developed and fully applied, such as 5G live broadcast, artificial snow, and self-driving cars. Other economic returns of the Olympics could come from licensing and sponsorship, selling of cultural and creative products, and creation of job opportunities, etc. Fifth, to promote the development of mass sports in China. Preparing and hosting the Beijing 2022 Winter Olympics promotes the popularization of winter sports among Chinese people. Over 346 million Chinese people have participated in winter sports since 2015, when China won the bid to host the Winter Games. During the preparation period, high-quality venues and facilities were built, and a series of ice and snow events were held. What's more, thousands of primary and secondary schools across China included Olympic and Paralympic education in their curriculums. All these efforts have pushed forward the fast development of China's ice and snow sports and raised awareness of fitness among Chinese people. In today's lecture, we have mainly learned 4 typical features of the Beijing 2022 Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games, namely greenness, high technology, Chinese cultural elements, and the national fitness campaign. And we have figured out the significance of hosting the Games for China from 5 perspectives: sports, culture, international relations, economy, and society. The Beijing 2022 Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games have amazed the whole world. I hope you can use the Games as an example to tell the stories of China's sports in a clear, vivid, and convincing way. Now, let's go over the key knowledge points of today's lecture. Music is an important tool to promote international communication. Compared with text, music is easier to be accepted by more audiences in the world. Beijing hosted its first Olympics in 2008 and second in 2022, becoming the world's first dual Olympic city. Typical features of the Beijing 2022 Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games include greenness, high technology, and Chinese cultural elements. Besides, the Games also promoted the development of the national fitness campaign in China. China has shown its capability and determination to deal with the global challenge of climate change by embracing the idea of Green Olympics. Possible reasons for China to make great efforts to host the Games include to make China a proud sporting nation, to promote Chinese culture to the world, to improve China's national image and international relations, to further modernize the nation and seek economic boom, and to promote the development of mass sports in China. Okay, that's all I want to share with you. See you next time. Dear students, we have now finished the learning of Topic 3, Beijing Olympic Games. How about we spend some time reviewing what we have learned in this topic? In the across-cultural view part, we have analyzed a dialogue about doing sports between a Chinese student and an American student, and we have known that the awkwardness in the scenario mainly results from stereotypes in cross-cultural communication. Then we figure out what a stereotype is, how a stereotype is formed, and what is the harm of stereotyping. You've also got some practical tips in terms of keeping away from stereotypes. In the Western media perspectives part, we have together criticized some netizens' false comments on Twitter concerning Big Air Shogun, and we have also refuted a Western media report questioning the greenness of the Beijing 2022 Olympics. The misrepresentation of the above comments and reports not only has something to do with their long-term bias against China, but also to some extent reflects their lack of media literacy. Based on the case study, we have studied a relevant media concept called out-of-context photos or videos, and by learning this key knowledge point, we will be more able to identify out-of-context photos or videos used by some biased media. This helps improve our media literacy. In the Real China part, we first draw some inspirations in terms of telling China sports stories from an episode of China Daily's video chat show. The episode focuses on the adapted theme song, Together for a Shared Future for Beijing 2022 Winter Olympics. Then we get to know the typical features of the Beijing 2022 Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games. What's more, since Beijing has become the first city in the world to host both the Summer Olympic Games and the Winter Olympic Games, we also take some time to discuss why China devoted itself to hosting the Games. That's our major learning content. Hopefully, the above knowledge can help you conduct cross-cultural communication, correct some Westerners' misunderstanding, and better tell China's sports stories. That's all for Topic 3. Look forward to meeting you soon. Bye-bye.